All right, so call meeting to order at 7:03. And look at that, we're already cooking with gas here. All right, sorry, I misplaced my agenda. I guess we have this one. So minutes of last meeting, any adjustments, edits, deletions, additions?
I was not in attendance, but I did do the video, and there was discussion on the TRC contract, which is why we put it in old business. I didn't know if he wanted to add it to old business. The discussion was relative to, we were expecting a contract, it is now, and they were, as a liaison, they were asking me to check on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add it in.
So it's here.
And Mark, actually asked me to put that on the agenda for tonight, so, we're rocking and rolling. So, other than that item, is there any other edits? No. All right, we'll accept a motion to accept. I'll second.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the minutes with the amendment to the proposal for TRC.
Yeah. Second, okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and, we had a guest tonight, Beth, did you, you had a couple of items on the agenda, would you like to join in? Beth one. She's here, where is she? She's E-Lot, this E-Lot. Hi, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So we have you down as a guest speaker tonight. So if you had, I know you had a few items that you'd like to touch on, so we can cover those items first if that works for you.
Okay. Mark just asked me to be here in case there were questions on how the level of the lake is being managed at this time. So I don't know if you want me to just explain what I've been doing, or do you have questions for me?
Well, I think the question came in mid-January, in terms of the protocol and the policy, obviously based on an incredibly mild winter. And Beth, I know you're aware of the emails. I was just wondering, are we following the policy? Number one was the first question, and number two, what's the chain of communication with either the subcommittee of LMAC or someone at LMAC? There is a dam subcommittee of Henry Beck, myself, and David Vanderbilt, so that everybody's kept in the loop. So I guess question one is, are we following the policy? And question two is, what's the chain of communication so that we all are involved and know? That makes sense?
Yep, the policy does state, so prior to January 1st, we were keeping the lake about -4 feet, 7 or 8 inches, give or take. And then at January 1st, it does give us the option to go up as high as -4 to -3.6. But in years past, any time that I started to raise that level and approach the -4 feet, we got a lot of pushback. It's still early in winter, even though we don't have ice. I didn't feel comfortable raising it above the -4.6. Unfortunately, with that heavy rain, it did jump up to -3.9, and I probably received about 10 calls. People very concerned that the lake level was high. And at this point, we're continuing to lower it. Right now, today it was at -4.1. And I want to bring it back down to 4.6 with this freeze that could cause a lot of damage this weekend.
We anticipate from the weather reports that we get, and I get the same one you do, Beth, because I'm affiliated with E.O. Smith, that there will be no ice on this lake in February.
Doesn't sound like.
So I guess, policy number one was could have been 10 individuals, but there can be 10 others or 20 others who, if you need the phone calls, would like to see the lake start to fill. I mean, we have a policy for a reason. We worked hard in 2016, 17, and 18 to finalize the policy based on climate change, based on 3 years, 2012, 16, and it again happened in 21, I think, where the lake never came up until the end of June or July. In 2012, the lake never came up. It never got to our walls. So based on that recent history, at least since 2000, that's why we changed the policy. And that's number one. Number two, I recognize that there are people who are afraid their docks may be impacted, but docks are impacted not because we're raising the water level, they're impacted, and Dan O'Neill brought this to our attention, because of ice jacking. Stormwater drainage and groundwater is freezing under our docks. The water is 30 feet from our dock in Most on Erdoney Road, and I still have freezing and listing foundation of our dock. So I'm a little confused as to why we aren't following the policy we put in place in 2018, and how we explain and educate people that raising the lake is not impacting your dock. It is impacting rocks and your dock foundation because of ice jacking. That's snow melt, 5 inches of rain that just came in. And we expect a cold snap for 24 hours this weekend, and that cold snap is gonna cause freezing. And it's gonna be around everybody's dock. So it's kind of two different issues. Raising the level of the lake, at least from my perspective, is a different issue than the ice jacking that's impacting all our docks, regardless of where the lake level is. So how do we educate those 10 people?
If I may add.
Yeah, but
that's
it's
my
not
concern.
only just the freezing that you have to be concerned with. It's not, you don't want to keep raising and lowering the lake when you still have an extended stretch of winter that could hit us. To raise it up to 3.6 and then hit a cold spell and have to drop it down again another foot, then you've impacted that fringe zone that I don't understand why we're so eager to raise it. It really is more how the spring rain happens, whether or not the lake will fill up.
History is 3 years and 11 years where we haven't filled our lake, which is why we changed the policy. And we argued it for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
But if the lake went to 3.6 per our policy, it's not to go below 3.6. So that window of 3.6 to 4 was the lake is to be maintained at that level and never go back. I spoke with Henry Beck, who unfortunately isn't here, and he said the reason that was done was also not to impact aquatic life. Once it comes up, we should not take it back, which is written right in the policy. So we shouldn't be going back once we get to a 4 or a 3.6 to 4.6
No,
per the policy.
right. And Bev, if I may add, I mean, that's something that, as Mary said, we've been arguing for years about. We've got to keep that lake level there. Once we pass and move into February, we have to continue to fill the lake. It's a must, or we're not going to have, we have to rely on that rain to come in. If we don't have water in the lake.
And then it'll be a lot more than 10 calls.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
A lot more than 10
Yeah.
calls.
So we have to keep that water level up. We can't drop it. We're gonna be in trouble if we do.
And I guess, just to, as far as the concern of weather, I'm just looking at the extended forecast and,
It's-
you know, through the middle of February, our daytime temperatures are in the mid 40s to the low 50s.
Right,
And so I appreciate your concern about the ice, because I share your concern about the ice, but I think if we look at the data, the data is telling us that, yes, we're gonna have a quick freeze, but, if we look longer term,
correct.
I think we have, and if this 2-week forecast was showing, 20s during the day and teens and single digits at night, obviously our approach, I think, would be different. Would you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
agree.
Yeah, 1 or 2 days at even single digits isn't gonna put a layer of ice that's gonna do much damage.
Yeah,
If it lasted a week long, that'd be a different story. But
Yeah.
it's
And
not.
it says right in our policy, if the ice were to form 2 inches or more, then we have to stop filling the lake.
Right.
And so all I'm saying is, Beth, we want you to understand our history, because
Yeah.
this policy was put in place in 1988 and changed in 2018 for a reason. If there are people calling to complain, I think LMAC and or the CLA, please refer them to us, and we'll educate them as to why this is happening.
They're more than welcome to come to one of these meetings and ask us, and we'll explain the history and why we do it, and the actual, the regulations that were written, and for what reasons. That way, the burden's not on you, invite them, they're more than welcome to come here.
Yeah.
And they can, we can talk them through it.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, Beth, we're here to support you, and, so if you are getting those concerns, we'd like to, we're here to help.
It's just in years past, we have not followed the guidelines. I've been instructed by LMAC to do certain things that haven't followed the guidelines. So I guess if we're gonna follow the guidelines, am I following it to the T?
Well, I guess, and when dealing with weather, there are, there are guidelines. And, obviously, if there is mitigating circumstances that, we need to work together with you on, we're here to work together with you. And I think right now, we are seeing, well, certainly the warmest winter that I've ever remember. And the guidelines are, I think, taking that into account, so.
And maybe some of the issue, Beth, is we are here to support you, and in years past, prior to your history, and I think it was Mark Coleman, you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a liaison type of a partnership with George Murphy, who was the dam, but it was Mark Coleman who was actually facilitating this and facilitating it with the subcommittee of LMAC, because that's why we have a dam subcommittee of Dave, Henry, and myself. And we're more than willing to facilitate that conversation and want to have those communications so everybody's on the same page. But I agree with Mike, these are guidelines that will take some judgment. It's an art, it's not a science. We've learned that throughout every season that we have these things.
The ultimate goal is to get the water back as fast as we possibly can. That's the ultimate goal, and the guidelines are written
Within,
to
well,
try to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, aren't the guidelines really contingent upon what the weather forecast is?
Yes,
Sure.
absolutely.
So whether or not we follow the guidelines, black and white, is really conditional upon the weather that we're having for that particular month. So if you look at it and say, well, there's 10 concerned citizens that are concerned, well, I'm going to freeze for 2 days, but it's not going to give me a nice ice cover and enough to damage my dock. And then on the other hand, you have 27 more days left, or 26, that are going to be 40 degrees. So there's really not a lot of risk with us adjusting from those guidelines and keeping the water level high.
Right.
And
All right, well, with that said, I'm trying to keep things concise here and moving forward. Beth, is there anything you need from us to move forward?
No, so you want me, it's very difficult to bring it to 3.6 and maintain it exactly at 3.6 without going higher.
Well, I think the guidelines.
It's almost impossible. So to
3.6.
keep it at 4,
There is a window.
Yeah, to four, it's in a window from 4 to 3.6.
Beth, that's not an easy job. We totally understand it. You know
well,
what I
I'm
mean?
just
So-
saying, I think it's
Yeah.
kind of, you know, you haven't done it. So to say, to bring it to 3.6 and keep it at that, it is almost
What do you mean you haven't done it?
impossible.
We've
So.
been doing it.
No,
We're doing
years
it-
past, the second the water gets to
3.11, I was getting calls.
at 3:11, the phone's ran off the hook and people make us come down to look at their peers that are in the ice.
But it's not. That's what we're trying
But
to.
last year, Dustin and I were walking out on the lake based on all the phone calls, the people wanted to show us their piers locked in ice, especially at the
Now,
dams.
A lot of that was stormwater drainage, not where the level of the lake
Well,
was.
well, wait a minute. A lot of that, excuse me, a lot of that can be wind from blowing across the lake from the camp, taking out the docks on the east side of the lake. That's what happens is the wind picks up the ice.
Well,
Are you
I
saying
think
the
to
perimeter
Beth's
of the
way,
lake
yeah,
was
but
up on the-
Well, to
on the
Beth,
dock?
to what I think Beth is trying to say is that there is, if the water is high enough, and, you know, to Noreen's point, if you get wind or we get some ice, there is gonna be some ice that's gonna, you know.
There's gonna be
flow-
ice on under every dock.
Flow into, but the question is,
Yeah.
you know, is this damaging ice? And Beth, if there have been some deviations in years past, you know, I couldn't speak to that specifically, I guess, but where we are today is, you know, for the next 2 weeks, we have, you know, wildly unseasonable weather and, you know, if we don't, I think the concern here is that without snowpack, you know, we don't have that delayed runoff with a thaw. And so I think the concern here is that with this extremely warm weather, we want to try to take advantage of the runoff that we do have.
I agree.
And so I think that's where this is driving from, is that we're pretty confident, and hey, next week we could be all wrong.
It's
But you know, right now, every indication is that we need to grab as much runoff as possible, given the given the weather up to this date and the weather forecast.
Okay, agreed.
And just moving forward about, the policy states that the Board of Selectmen may designate assistant gatekeepers. Maybe we should designate Henry, myself, and or Dave to be available to just run things by. That's number one. Number two, when you get the phone calls, refer them to the Columbia Lake Association. I'm happy to reach out to any person and say, this is where we're at, come to our meetings, understand our policy. Because these people don't.
Yeah.
And Mark, you do the
But
same.
have we
thing. You
put
might
it-
walk and walk around. We'll be happy to. We've been doing this for 30 years, you know what I mean? And trying to juggle.
That would be a big help, when Beth and I get the calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
Just
send them
every
over.
hour.
You
Yeah.
guys don't have to go out.
I'll bet we know half the people.
Yeah.
And one or two may be on LMAC.
And you know, they're the first ones to call probably when the water isn't up.
Well,
Come
you know,
summertime.
I called Beth myself, I sent her an email, just asked, it wasn't a complaint, it was just asking her what the plan was for the dam, you know, whether.
Can I ask, has it been put in our town newsletters? Some of our guidelines, because I haven't read it recently. I mean, I'm just thinking, why don't we do some education through in our town newsletters?
The guidelines are, but, Noreen, every year at CLA, we publish a ripple saying it's an art, not a science, and here's what we do for the dam.
I know, I realize CLA, the Lake Association does that, but not all members that live on the lake are members of that. And I just thought maybe in the town newsletter, Beth, you could write something up and talk about how it's an art.
We can do something like that. We can do some sort of a public awareness.
Yeah, I think I can tell you that a few phone calls came to me while I'm away, and I tried to smooth things out about the weather, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, Beth, you ended up getting some of the phone calls.
Which is interesting because the inquiries I'm getting is, why aren't we filling the lake?
Yeah. Okay, so.
And I'm getting the opposite.
In the interest of time, are we comfortable
We're good.
moving forward?
Beth
Okay.
and I will come.
Yeah, Beth, did you have an update on the gate repair?
We're still waiting on permitting, and then we'll move forward as soon as we have that.
Okay, all right, so that item will stay in old business. In the culvert update, is there some state involvement? Is that
With what?
Yes,
the culverts? There's,
No, what we're doing is we're trying to get engineering studies for engineering money in the budget to get ahead of our culvert design,
okay,
2 culverts. But these aren't culverts around the lake. These are culverts, main culverts that are a problem on our main roads.
oh, good, okay, so nothing that,
No, I still have your hit list of culverts to look at around the lake.
yeah,
And good news is we just purchased a mini excavator on
Oh, yeah.
rubber tracks. So we'll be able to get in the very hard locations without ripping up everybody's lawn.
Rubber track, oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
so this is gonna be a major advantage. We're really working around the lake and the Little League field and doing culverts townwide.
okay,
Yeah.
great,
So that's a big plus.
all right.
so the culverts, just for the minutes, the culverts then that we talked about on whether or not the state could get involved with the lake.
What we're-
with that.
Trying to do is get grants for culverts, major culverts like going under Pine Street and going under Hunt.
Outside of the lake,
Yes,
okay,
that's where, Beth, right now, the only culvert around the lake we repaired ourselves, which was on Arizona.
Correct. We don't have any funding in the budget right now on any drainage around the lake.
okay, so that money for the grant is going only to
Is
the
going
town,
for engineering of major culverts in Columbia
okay,
that are
Outside the lake.
at risk of eventually failing.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
thank you.
Okay,
Good, good.
and, town beach dredging and erosion, Beth, did you have any updates on that?
On the dredging,
Yeah, is there, I guess there,
Do you mean dredging we already did?
no, the town beach, yeah, the dredging.
Well, that was just for the,
I
Yeah.
believe the Egan's were going to work with our inland wetland department about dredging the cove. So that was between them, I believe, and Isabel.
yes, I think Isabel was going to bring that as a request to the wetlands to see if they would allow any dredging of the sand that is filled up in that cove. So that's being worked on by inland wetlands.
Gotcha. So the dredging we did, the town did, we took it out of the boat area.
Where the boat launch
And
is,
we put it back at the beach?
Right.
Or did we haul it out?
on the beach and we spread it.
That's right, okay.
We took it out of the boathouse and around, there was a seawall. What the Egan's are asking for, and the Niles who live next to them, is, then why aren't you taking it out of our properties? Because we have steps now, understand, we have docks being compromised.
And
That's what is,
That's being looked at by.
that's what
wetlands.
Isabel's been looking at.
So we can't do anything without wetlands approval in those areas.
However, my question is, how can we do it on the town beach, but we can't do it, or around by the Marine Patrol, but we can't do it literally 20 feet away? That was the Egan's real question,
Okay.
was, and
Did we get
the response I heard was, well,
Yes,
there's
we had
precedent.
wetland approval, but we did.
Oh, the town did give wetlands.
Yes, we didn't request that.
So the
We
town
did what we're responsible for, which is the town beach and.
and,
Both.
And they got approval through wetlands, so now the Egan's can go in and try to get the same approval.
Correct.
okay,
Gotcha.
And you can do it as the town,
Mhm.
so it doesn't have to be done privately.
I think the request was for the town to do it.
Well, that's a whole.
It's coming from the town beach, we all know that.
Right.
There's
so
a
it's
difference
correct.
between taking sand out of a boathouse as opposed to dredging an entire cove. So when you start doing that amount of work,
Yeah, but
you
we
need the
also.
proper
took out-
permits in place.
No, we understand that, but we also took it out, the town took it out of the, where the dock is, and that's theoretically the lake, not the boathouse.
Exactly.
But still, I mean, the fact is, let them go through wetlands, let's see how wetlands addresses them, and we can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, our boathouse is useless once it fills with sand.
Yeah, of course, of course.
I think the cove is useless too, once it fills with sand.
True.
Or trees.
The cove is useless.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so, do we have any other questions for Beth?
I don't think so.
Okay, Beth, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Now.
You're always more than welcome to, continue, or if you have other things to do, we certainly understand.
And Beth, thank you for what you do for us. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Hi, Ann, how are you?
She there?
You have anything for tonight?
Is she muted? Ann is muted.
You're muted.
You're muted, Ann. She's talking, but she doesn't know.
Yeah, sorry. Oop.
Ann, you're muted.
Oh, she's
Now you should-
unmuted now.
You should be okay.
Oh, go ahead, Ann.
No, she's still muted.
Oh, there you go, right there.
There we go. Sorry. I have a question. It was really for Beth, if she's still there. Was the silt fence on the beach effective?
Good question.
Very minimal. I don't know how much really it kept out. We had a little bit of buildup at the base of the silt fence, but not the significant amounts that everyone had projected.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. Was that it for tonight, Ann?
Well, I was just curious as to the plan for the boathouse and that sort of thing.
We're going to rebuild it. We're being covered by our insurance company.
Good. All right,
Thank you.
excellent, thank you.
It's being designed right now.
Excellent.
Good.
All right. Communications, we have a application from Greg Stryker. Personally, I know Greg. Does anybody have any feedback about Greg?
I've never met him. I don't know.
Yes, I know Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good boat. He's off the lake. He has a pontoon boat that he is on the lake almost every weekend and during the week when he can be. I would just defer to LMAC and to Mike's thought or suggestion that anyone interested in LMAC may want to attend a meeting or two to understand before they make that decision.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should invite, if he's, asking to come on, I think we should say, ask him to attend for a couple meetings, and then we can bring up the application after that.
Okay. So,
Do you need a motion for that or just?
No.
Just-
No, just if you want to pull him, I just need to know, so he's not on the board of selectmen agenda for February 7th.
no,
Then I would suggest no motion and no recommendation until he attends the meeting.
yeah,
Or two.
yeah.
Do you want us to send out a note to him? Or
Or
you
that,
want us-
I can just give him a call.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give him a call.
Even to view a video. I wasn't here last week and you could go online and view the video, or last month. View the video.
That's so.
that might chase me away.
Maybe not.
Last week meeting was shorter.
That might be a good one. Yeah, don't do one of the, war and peace, what was it, what was one of those long, I can't remember, it was a long movie,
War and Peace was a long.
well, that was a long book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving along, okay, so I'll call Greg. I'm glad to see he's interested. That's great. Okay, committee reports, permits, are there any applications, in for permits? Bob?
Nothing that I'm aware of, Mike.
Okay. Did I see anything? There was no email activity?
No.
Bob Miller, did you see anything tracking on this?
You're on mute.
Mute.
buddy. Mute.
The only thing I know that's going on right now is Morosik's job is being worked on. Coster, I don't know anything, but I haven't seen any email traffic or anything in the last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here, Mike. No new email traffic.
Everything being done is permitted.
Okay,
We've already approved.
all right, great. And then, the dam emergency plan, any updates there?
Did you receive it yet?
I didn't.
Okay, so Jen, we have it. We're having a lot of trouble because it was provided to us in a PDF format that is not, we can't update it.
You can't,
Update the
Can't be
digital
edited?
file.
Is it old?
Can you print it?
oh, yeah, is it?
No, and what she could do was get the footers right. I said, just forget the footers. So we're compromising. We will get it to you. She
Okay,
was trying to update it with current contacts and current employment, you know, George Murphy needs to be taken off, that's why I added on.
yeah.
There's nothing critically updated on it, but she's trying to get you clean.
Oh, okay, I mean, at this point, if it's there's two ways to attack it. We don't have the original file, the
Yeah,
Word
I
file?
have the original file, it's not updated, because it can't be updated, because,
Well, I know, but, do we have like a Word document?
no,
Okay.
we have a PDF.
We have a PDF, and is it a native PDF or a scanned PDF?
I don't know, but it cannot be edited correctly, because the
Okay.
footers are all tied, anytime she changes it.
So there
Format.
is OCR, software that you can either go to a website and upload it and have them, but there's
And then
ways to do that. And a lot of the modern PDF viewers, whether I think it's Adobe or in a Mac, it's Preview. There's some OCR functionality native to it now, or it actually just picks up the text. You can, literally cut or copy and paste it.
Well, we do that all the time, but something's wrong with this file.
Okay.
Jen would know what it is, but she said she'll get it.
Okay, fair enough.
Stay
All right.
patient.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll check on that. Water quality, where are we at with that? Any updates? No? Okay. Fishing?
Not much of that going on.
No.
Haven't seen any ice.
Yeah.
Except the Eagles, they're eating.
Yeah, they must be
And
eating
them
very
ducks.
well.
Yeah. And the access, safety and regulations, anything there?
Is Marine Patrol later?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Well, it's
No.
under access and safety.
that's under this.
Marine Patrol?
Yes, access, safety and regulations is under Marine, this
Yeah.
Marine Patrol is under this.
So, I have no proposal. I think we should have one by March, but I have met and spoke with Mark and then. spoke
March
with-
will be when we do the report.
Yeah, I spoke with Deb this yesterday. We had a very thorough conversation. Deb is the new director of recreation here, working with Mark. She's very enthusiastic to want to have a very productive, customer-oriented and yet direct Marine Patrol. And one of the thoughts is, and I would like LMAC to consider, is kind of a threefold process to help us understand moving forward, because we don't understand what we have now from a registration point of view for boats on this lake. So moving forward, the three things we talked about were A, public awareness and working with the town of Columbia, not just the CLA, but the town of Columbia, to make public awareness of what are our regulations relative to invasive species, relative to horsepower, et cetera. B, have an online registration process similar to key registration process or building permit registration process, where you can, before you even come to the gate, upload all your registration information with a picture of your certificate registration, with a picture of your hull, with a picture of your engine serial number, whatever it is finally decided. So the process of moving forward and registering boats and monitoring the gate will be much easier if we can get people to register online first. Then they show up, we have all their stuff and we're just checking it, fine. We do the safety check, they get their certificate, their little certificate, and then it goes the boat. So Deb was in favor of the online registration. And then the at the gate registration would be a much easier process for ensuring that we've registered every motor vehicle on this lake. The only discussion that the fourth part of it that we haven't evolved to or finalized yet was there are people with keys on the lake who are accessing the lake and not registering their boats theoretically. And I'll take example. I don't think we've registered our boats in the last 5 years in terms of the Woody that we have or the cruise craft, motor boat that we have. So the next part of marine patrol is when you don't have a certificate and you're seen on the lake, a friendly discussion, and we will do a certification on the lake or at your dock. Because people who have keys are putting their boats in without going through a registration process. Those are the 4 things we talked about.
Okay.
Quick question.
I don't have a formal motion. I would just, Deb and I are gonna work on it, and she wants to be here in March to present it. But
So the person who's ever checking the boat in, they can pull up the registration right there,
right there,
and then they can check the serial.
that's the intent.
Perfect. That would be,
Okay.
that'd be great.
We thought we had some of that. I'm not sure we have what we have. But the issue isn't what do we have, the issue is moving forward, we have to register every motor vehicle.
Yeah.
Whether
You're
go
going
beyond that is,
the comment on the people with the key, how many keys do we have out now? Typically, I thought there was only
Usually-
like 25 to
I think we're up to
40 keys.
50.
Well, but they're the
I'm
same,
not sure we're that high.
but they haven't been changing.
No,
The
they
keys
changed.
are
They
changed,
change every year.
yeah,
You sure about that?
yeah,
As far as I know.
my key
Yeah,
changed.
I hand mine in every year.
I know you hand yours in, but does the
Oh.
lock change?
No, the
Yes,
lock-
we have multiple locks.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Does the lock change?
Yes.
I was given a key from 2017 and it worked.
Well, we don't have endless amounts of locks.
You hit the location.
This just happened to wait 3 years and bingo.
You picked the right one, Mike.
Okay, I'm just saying there's, for what it's worth.
So Mark, we have a question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. If you're planning on this online registration, it sounds really good. So you're looking at doing some software updates and. making-
Well, that's the problem, where
Available.
if it gets too complicated,
Yeah.
where's the computer when you're doing all this? It can't, if it's out on the boat, it's not at the gate. If you're just relying on cell phone pictures that you're gonna download later and then key into an Excel database, that's something
But,
else.
I met with Deb and Anika a couple times since last meeting too, just to find out exactly what they had available to them to use, Well, they have those phones.
Right.
And Anika was saying they do enter the data onto the phones, whatever data that they have been, they can, let's put it that way, they can, and they can retrieve some of that data just, by putting in the keyword and pulling that up. So I don't know what the limitations are on those phones, but is it something that, the phone makes sense, something that they have available all the time. Because you're not gonna run back and get a laptop or bring a laptop out.
yeah, you could do it on a phone. We have the.
Or an iPad's much easier.
iPad might
iPads would be ideal.
Yeah.
be, right, that might be the answer, and then
Right.
Because a phone I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old, but
No,
a
I
phone
agree.
gets, it's just,
Hitting the numbers in.
and try to
And
see
we
how.
have 2 iPads from COVID
Mhm.
that I don't think are being used.
There
I'm not
might be the
sure.
opportunity.
I asked to see if they have cameras. Now,
Yeah,
they might not have cameras.
no, they have cameras.
Yeah.
If they're actual iPads, they have cameras.
Okay.
If they're
All iPads.
So I think we have to think outside the box, because I know we were relying on the phone to take a picture, and we were storing it in notes under the person's name.
Right, which is very hard to.
And then now you're storing a picture, 4 pictures under each person's name, and you're trying to sort them, but it could work.
Hey, Mary?
And we did lose.
Mary or Mark?
Yeah.
I would like to add something to this. I think we should have our own, in addition to the Columbia Lake sticker, every boat should have a Columbia Lake registration number.
That's Steve.
Yes.
Oh, is that Steve?
Oh,
Yes.
Steve, I thought it was.
Yeah,
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Yeah, I concur. I think the certificate should be, include the registration, not just a little safety.
but it should have even a different registration than the boat registration. It should, each sticker, each boat, we should give it a number so that we can reference it really easily. And then when the kids or people or whoever, when they check in boats and they're sitting out in the water, they have their little tablet, they can do data entry. Get a log together.
Tied to a number that's tied to that boat.
Yeah, and again, I always hate going back to Smartsheet, but it's cheap and it's very easy to use,
But
but
smart sheet.
what Smartsheet? It's basically like an online version of Excel, but on steroids, and they have a lot of functionality where you can actually build a form. And so you can actually, like,
Pretty easy,
when you
yeah.
go through and you can build a form, so they, it'll say,
They can build that.
register, name of registration, blah, blah, blah.
Bob's using it now right, Bob? Aren't you using smart sheets for the applications?
No, I'm still in more of an advanced still.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you.
Yeah, I never figured it over.
Yeah, but either way, Smartsheet, and then what's nice about it is everything that gets entered gets put into an online spreadsheet.
Okay.
And then the online spreadsheet is searchable, it's sortable, and you can make notes on each line, you can attach files like a photograph,
Well, that would make sense.
right? And then, and you can even make it so that when they pull up the intake form,
Yeah,
when they're, and they have it on the iPad, they're doing the intake form, it can say, oh, photo, and then you can hit photo and import a photo into that file.
Yeah.
Here's your phone number, here's your certificate.
here's the question. You have Marine Patrol doing this and the gate monitor doing this. If you're running smart sheet on 2 iPhones, can they merge?
Oh, no,
Yeah. because-
it's a cloud-based system, so whatever happens, and then, it's,
It'll update.
yeah, I mean, the cost of it is relatively cheap. If you hire one of their consultants to build what you need, because it's insanely customizable. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and I'm running all my companies on it right now. And I have different modules for each company,
Huh.
and
Cool.
it's pretty powerful. And once someone gets up to speed with it, I'm like, oh, hey, can you make this one? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Is smart sheet but expensive?
No, so
No,
it's
it's not,
like,
it's
it's
not.
like a couple $100 per user per year.
The really good thing though is that, like, if you're somebody who, you don't know it, it's very easy to go into the page you want and make changes and then get out. You don't have to be an expert at it. You can be, totally,
Technically challenged.
technically challenged,
Thank
thank you, and not have an issue with, because all you're gonna do is pull up that sheet, put in the information you want, and then end it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's in there,
And
and then anybody can
and
access it.
here's one, like, for instance, our time off requests are also in Smartsheet, and it's a form. So the employee goes in and they fill out the request, and then an automated email gets sent to my HR manager and me, each separately, and with an approval pull, so like, I can literally get an email, hit a link, it brings me to the sheet, I will review the information, I hit approve.
You just go, no, no.
Yeah, no, never, not on your life.
Are you kidding?
What is this comedy hour? Yeah, but, either way,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
it's a very, go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Mike, to Steve's point, I think we could do both. And the inspection certificate that we stick on the boat becomes the unique registration number, and all of our numbers, when we order the stickers for the year, are going to be different, 1 through 300 or something, however many boats we have. So then that sticker would be, you've taken a photo with Smartsheet with the iPad, that sticker would be imported in through like a drop-down menu. Take a picture of it, and that becomes the history for that boat for however many years it's on the lake.
Yep.
The question is, how do we assign, do we change the registration number every year for that boat, or does it now become the same number for the next 10 years?
I would use the same number. Why
Well,
would?
because now you don't have to re-input all that data.
Right.
If you've already done it,
Well,
and the
once it's,
registration doesn't change.
yeah, once it's in Smartsheet, the person with the iPad at the gate can literally search their name. It would pull up their file,
Yeah.
it would pull up their file, and then you could put an automation where they just say,
We could have the years.
2023.
Check that year.
Done.
He-
You know,
Right,
you
so-
just keep
so that-
adding.
cheaper next year.
So Mike, what you're saying, the registration number stays with that boat for the life of the boat while it's on the lake?
It could be that too,
Yeah, so basically, as you go along, you just keep getting higher numbers.
yeah,
Yes, could be.
But once you use up,
yeah,
Yeah,
like this year, we might want to use up to 200.
Mhm.
Yeah, next year we use
You might-
201 to.
So,
you had 10 new boats and 3 fell
But-
off, but who cares? You're at 210.
yeah, but
Yeah.
they're both good ideas. I like it. That would work very well.
I also think
Registration
that
number, that's.
we should have a new committee.
Why don't you use that instead of creating.
Your
another
battery
number?
support.
go ahead, Steve.
It's just, yeah,
Steve has,
it's
Mike,
just easier.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve, go ahead.
Mike, I also think we should have a new committee from lake management people that actually go around the lake and do the inspections to make sure that the boats are in compliance and not depend on the people at the gate. They should safety inspection and make sure that the boat belongs on the lake, but then over the course of the summer, we do inspections to make sure we get to every single boat and make sure they're all the right stuff. Not have it some kid at the.
Steve, why would Marine Patrol not do?
Yeah,
that?
why?
Yeah,
would
why
that
wouldn't
be-
Marine Patrol be doing that?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
Last year, I bought a new used boat and I brought it to the dock, fully prepared for my inspection, and the kids were goofing off in the little hut there and just waved me on.
Well,
That's a
we'll see how
separate
they do this
issue,
year.
yeah, I hear you, but I think that's a separate
But
issue.
so I don't think those kids know about finding serial numbers and making sure everything is right. Just don't. They don't care.
Maybe LMAC should be educating these kids. Maybe instead of us going out inspecting them, we have a team that volunteers to help educate.
Well, once
No,
they've been inspected
Hold
once,
on,
they're then you follow the number.
So
hold
we're
on,
talking.
Mark, please,
Yeah,
please,
tell me,
please,
because I know
Mark.
Devin-
So we're hiring adults, Steve, and we're upping the hourly wage.
From here on?
All be
Yes.
presented in March.
Yes.
And there's going to be, one of our Marine Patrol officers who's a fire chief and a security,
Right.
a career in security, Brian Alt.
Yeah.
He's going to be in charge of Marine Patrol reporting to Deb Fisk.
It wouldn't be a bad idea though, to have them come maybe to a meeting, and we can
yeah.
talk through what
That's
the
fine.
expectations are and that kind of thing.
Both Brian and Deb will come in March.
They're gonna be here. in
Oh,
March.
great.
Deb apologized. Deb is also is the Yukon radio person, and Yukon women are playing tonight. So she's doing radio. She is very enthusiastic to make this work and to work with adults. And Brian is a huge, huge step in the right direction. So hopefully they can get all together, but she apologized. She will be here in March.
Well, once this database is built and all the boats have a number, it should be a lot easier.
Right,
Agreed.
I think that's a great idea you guys came up with. I like that. Because the system we had wasn't working, obviously.
Okay. All right, so, that'll be in March, watershed management plan.
Your watershed is endangered by beavers at the moment. We're actually meeting with DOT and walking Utley Pond.
They're back again?
But there, it's back, the water's going the wrong way and it's endangering flooding Route 66 right now.
Really?
Yeah, coming from Utley Pond. So the beavers have stopped it from
So it's
going
going
to
the
the
other
lake.
way.
Ooh,
So it's.
haven't been up there in a
I-
while.
Beth is working with DOT, but I would highly recommend that they bring a drone in, because you really can't get around that
Yeah,
swamp.
it's
By
very
foot.
dense. Bush,
I think they
brush.
have to have a drone, so that was my Beth and I met on that yesterday, and I said, you gotta tell them to bring a drone.
Wow,
Okay, so that's,
that's a major contributor to the.
You wanted an old business?
Yes.
but that property isn't Columbia Lake, Columbia property, that's owned by Joplin.
Joshua
Joshua's
Trust.
Trust.
Would they let us put a, I mean, you can't destroy. these.
Ann's raising her hand.
Ann is the liaison for Joshua.
Oh,
Go ahead, Ian.
Glad to have you.
Hi. Where are you saying the beavers are?
We don't know, that's why DOT wants to walk the wetland.
Okay,
And I asked, did Beth get a hold of you, Ann?
the two dams, the one that's right at the stream and the long one in the middle towards the north end of the Utley Swamp. Those are not being maintained. And I have not seen a beaver there or any sign of a beaver. I think the beavers are on the south side of Route 66.
Always have been, but they think they moved to the other side. So can you contact Beth and help her with a map to show her what you know and what access points are?
Okay, and if you're running a drone, let me know. I'd like to be a fly on the wall.
Well, and I told Beth to make sure you're involved, because you probably know that whole area better than anybody. So
Right.
she is reaching out to you.
Okay, but I mean, I haven't inspected out by Route 66, but I think that the beavers are building a dam. They're damming up the culvert.
Yes, that's a problem.
And I think that's why it's going over, or it's threatening to go over Route 66 from the south end. But on the north end, the stream is running rampant. Smaller dam is breached in two places, the smaller beaver dam. And the larger one is leaking like a sieve. So it hasn't breached though.
Well, we'll find it. Hopefully.
Just giving a heads up, we'll be investigating.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Yep.
Okay, and, stormwater culverts, I think we already talked about that.
Yes.
Budget review, how are we doing on our budget?
Do you want to discuss TRC?
Yeah.
That's the bulk of your budget.
Okay,
So I sent this out.
So I put a copy in everybody's
Yeah.
seat and
Yep.
Those are on
Mary's
Zoom.
email.
you're on Zoom, these are on the email, the proposal.
You sent that out Monday, Mary, right?
Yeah. So, what would you like to, who wants to?
I would entertain a motion that we discuss there are any questions, so that would be a discussion point that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen to renew the contract for a year.
So that's a motion.
That's a motion.
Okay, now we have, does anybody second that?
I'll say that.
Second it. What do we have for discussion? How are we doing for budget with this?
Yeah, it's in line with your budget,
Okay,
so you're good there. 22,000 will cover the proposal plus your testing,
yeah,
Correct.
and how,
3,000.
and how are we doing with as far as, scope? I have not read it, obviously, but I'll just ask the question openly, so it's on record, but
Yeah,
how is this scope compared to the original proposed scope and how it meets our goals?
in December, during his presentation, Carl Nielsen did add, at our request, an additional field visit.
Yeah.
So now we will have 6 months of data for water quality.
Yeah.
And that would have increased the budget from approximately 15,000 to give or take 17. In addition, they had an 8% increase in their hourly rate as of January 1st. That took us to 18.2, which is still well within our budget. So we got more. We're still gonna get aquatic mapping every year. We're gonna get stormwater drainage assessment every year in terms of that water quality. And we have another field visit. So I think we're getting the bang for our buck.
And they also included at our request, I believe, some hours where we could have discussions with them.
Correct.
Because that was a big,
Yeah.
big
Mhm.
question that we all had. We wanted to be able to talk to them. If we had questions, could they come in? So I forget how many, I know I read it, but was it 8 hours, I think, of different,
Yeah.
that they could use over the
It
year?
could be 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah, something like that. So that's a really good point. I think they added in.
In addition, just one positive point, I could not send you the annual report because it's so big. It's a 97-page annual report. The recommendations are very straight on to what we discussed in September. And I will figure out a way, I guess through my Gmail to get that to you.
Well, most people can't accept something that large.
Okay,
So there's a number of free services, sendbigfiles.com.
so here's what TRC suggested. We have access to their SharePoint for Columbia Lake.
Oh, well, then they have.
And if
That's
Mark approves, we'll
Yeah.
provide every email for LMAC members, then you can go on anytime you
It'll be a
want.
link, it'll be a link, we can just.
Right, and you can read any of the monthly reports, the annual reports, any of the data and information. Mark approves, so I'll give them all, Jennifer has all their emails.
Yeah.
So we'll provide that via SharePoint. That was,
It'll
it.
be
So
a-
I'm on SharePoint now.
It'll be a link to the document.
It's a link to the entire file that we have for Columbia Lake.
Okay.
So that's every monthly, the
Yeah.
annual report,
Yeah.
all the old data that we sent from Portman's group, whatever that is. See, I forgot them already. That's all in our Columbia Lake file.
Ooh, big.
I'm sorry. Systems, thank you. So, I just think, these guys are straightforward, they're straight shooters. 8% increase plus an extra field visit is well worth the increase.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other questions? Okay. All in favor of accepting the proposal per the motion from Mary? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. All right, great, thank you. Awesome.
Nice
Thank you
work,
very-
Mary.
Thank you for all that.
Yeah, appreciate it, helping me.
All right, so, update on the database horsepower registrations, that was kind of, we talked about that
Cover that.
already, but, and we're gonna keep diving into that, so. We're good
I think
there.
Deb will have her proposal ready by March, so.
Okay, fishing barrel.
Okay, so here's what I found
out.
I don't think we need it this year, but.
Yeah,
The reason that culvert was selected is that it does not have an outlet pipe in that culvert. It has no bottom. So whatever goes in that culvert just oozes away through natural filtration.
Perks into the ground.
So
Oh,
the one bucket of minnows dumped in there would take probably quite a long time to reach
Years.
the lake. So I think it's a safer bet. Than I know in the past, there was complaints from neighbors and people using the beach of having fish in a barrel in that area. So that's why that was selected by George Murphy as a place to put your bait. I don't know if anybody should put your bait over there. But that's why that was selected.
So it's just a dry well, really?
It's a dry well with a sandy bottom.
Yeah, okay.
It's in the parking lot.
And I'm sorry, so is that designated as to
It
where?
has a sign that says, please put your fishing bait
Okay,
In this
in
culvert?
this culvert.
Okay, so the barrel.
There's an arrow aiming down.
okay.
Now, we could put another sign down the gate, another sign.
Yeah.
Explaining where it is, where you should dispose of your bait bucket.
That's a
not
good
in the
idea.
lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea, Mark.
Yeah, I can make that happen.
Neon flashing?
Yes,
All right.
with a shock if you directly turn it towards the water.
Thank you, certainly have another. All right. All right, so I think we're all set there. Geese,
Yeah, they seem to be coming and going. I don't, they're here now.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a daily basis.
I
They're
think
leaving and probably on private
we had a
grounds.
couple of swans. I don't know if everybody saw that.
Yeah,
They're
there were
out
two.
here,
yeah,
for a few days. They weren't
Yeah.
here very long.
Typically swans migrate,
Oh, yeah.
our geese don't. They migrate from one end of the lake to the other, as Emma Nyardi will tell me, because they live on her property.
yeah, and they, well, yeah, and we've been getting them at our house when we're around in the morning.
But they tell me that swans and geese don't get along. These swans.
Oh, maybe there's a reason we put a swan on
Let's get
the
more swans.
So
Let's get more swans, right?
I first have what we put them.
Whether we get more.
What was that? So we have a committee, a volunteer committee of 15 people for a candidate geese study group to make recommendations to LMAC. Hopefully, no later than the end of March. I'd love it to be at the March meeting, but I can't guarantee it. We've met once, we had Min Hwang.
Min Hung.
Min Hung, from Connecticut Deep Migratory Program Director, explain to us what's going on. What we have done is, we understand the issues, we know the deterrent methods. Now we're looking at the pros and cons of each method, and then the committee will reach consensus with recommendations on each deterrent method, non-lethal and lethal. And what I envision is, we're meeting next week via Zoom, we'll weigh the pros and cons. We'll have an initial survey to see where we have consensus, so we don't have to waste 2 hours of things that I think we'll have consensus on. And then we'll have a final Zoom to bring to fruition, what are we gonna do with other issues that we may not have consensus on? And what are those recommendations gonna look like? So ideally, by the end of February, we should have that, then I have to put the report together to present to LMAC and Board of Selectmen. We are at every non-lethal and lethal, the study group has subgroups that are looking into the pros and cons of everyone and what the recommendations will be. And I'm trying to facilitate it. It's like herding cats.
So I was gonna say, well.
Yeah, God bless you.
And, just how many different solutions are you looking at?
Well, if you saw the survey, we sent a survey out.
Oh, I saw it.
We have 210 responses
Nice.
already.
Oh, I was all over
And
that.
we went from non-lethal to lethal, there's probably 11 deterrents. I would
11.
suspect the non-lethal will make the consensus easier. It's gonna be the lethal we're gonna have to talk about and have either consensus or consensus with what I call modification. If not everybody agrees, what's, what can we do?
Yeah,
Example, should we have a roundup on private property off the lake versus a roundup on the lake? And I don't want to get too far ahead, and I don't want to bias any of our members who are on the team here.
yeah. No, that's fine. I was just curious as to kind of where where that was headed.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully by the end of February, we'll be into the meat of Mimico.
yep,
And
okay.
here's-
So that's new business for March. that you're
Well,
going to have.
it's really old, it'll just stay on as old.
Yeah, keep it
business.
old.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have an update presented, it'll probably be verbal March and written recommendations. By mid to end of March.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay,
Great crew of people.
great. Awesome. But 200 responses, you said?
We had 210 responses to the survey, so.
That's great.
And by the way, we had over 120 geese on the lake in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we did. So it's serious.
We'll put it in the report, but Min gave us the 3 reasons why this is happening, which are essentially, we're developing lawns, climate change is keeping ice off the lake, and geese are living longer. Average 18 years.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
What are you developing lawns? Oh, just because we.
When we develop properties, if you put a lawn in,
Oh, it's
we're
easy.
inviting geese.
I
Yeah,
got you.
that's like
Hey,
saying,
come eat, it's their
"Come
garden."
over for dinner.
Yeah.
Uh, Okay. Bob, next item we have is permit link tracker.
Yeah, nothing new, Mike. It's basically using the same Excel spreadsheet. We weren't able to leverage with the town systems yet, so.
All right, so just keep it on here as open.
Oh, are we gonna try Bob, you were originally talking about trying, if we end up using smart sheets, would that be a better system, using smart sheets for what you're doing, or? the way
Yeah,
you're doing it?
We actually did talk about that, and then we got sidetracked. We were gonna leverage the town's updated permit system, and after talking to Mark's admin, it wasn't really, from a licensing perspective and user interface, it didn't really fit us very well. So Smartsheet would be a good option, and then you could, distribute the emails, so you'd have users and editors, and you'd have viewers only. So you can definitely use Smartsheet. I'm just not familiar with that. I've used other systems throughout my career, but I've never used Smartsheet. I'm sure the interface is similar.
Yeah.
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 Well, by the way, I don't, get any
Yes,
money
you
for
do.
smart sheets. I pay them money, but I just find it's
Sure.
been a
You
very,
get the finished product.
and I being a miser sometimes with all these
Mike,
fancy.
Mike, is Smartsheet licensed? Do we require a license for it, or does it?
Yeah, so it depends on the user level, and basically for a user, I can't remember how they call it, but there's a user level to actually create the sheets.
Yep.
And then there are other users that can come in that are free, that, can look at the sheets and, maybe enter some data or something, but the primary level user, if you want someone to be able to be manipulating the sheets and managing the sheets, it may be 1 or 2 users, primary users, and then everybody else is free.
So if the town purchased the smart sheets and did it, couldn't Bob access that and to add data
Absolutely.
from the
Well,
permit
yeah.
side? So you could do it
Yeah, I
on the
Well,
wall.
let me just say one thing. If you have an Excel spreadsheet, it is a 3-second operation to basically take that spreadsheet and upload it into Smartsheet, and it's done. The same way, you can actually take a Smartsheet and download and turn it into an Excel spreadsheet. So there's a lot of interface that way. I'm sorry, Bob, I interrupted.
No, I was just gonna say, I just looked at it online. There is a free version. I'll take the action to upload my Excel spreadsheet into that free version and see what the interface looks like, and show it next meeting.
Yeah, and, yeah, and, you know, you and I wanna, or you use it as well?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and it makes, if we decide to use it for the Marine Patrol, it makes perfect sense that then we use this as well. Because what is easy about it, like you were saying, is
Yeah,
that
the LMAX.
anybody can tie into it. If you give them access, they can tie into it for free and even make, you know, and add stuff. And everybody will see what they added. And it keeps track who added, what time they added, you know what I mean, the whole 9 yards. So it's a nice
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
for.
But it's nice, you can also give view only, which is.
Yes, you
is
can.
important,
Ah,
you know, so. it's
so
not-
you, some people can't manipulate.
Right, right. You can give them access, but their hands are tied behind their backs. So, okay, well, again, if you have any questions about it, Bob, and it sounds like Jim has familiarization with it as well. We have, flying boards, water jetpacks.
Oh, yeah, I saw this on the video, from last month. When we did the horsepower research on should we change it or not, there were two other LMAC members who brought up two issues. One was flying boards, water jetpacks, the other was wake boats. Those individuals who are not here tonight, the questions, let me get to the flying boards, water jetpack. The question was, a resident has asked, is that legal on this lake? And when I researched it, my response is, it's legal until we're liable because someone could break their neck. And let me tell you why. These jetpacks go down under the water to a depth of 12 feet. Our average depth of this lake is 15 feet with a lot of big rocks. So if we want to allow these on the lake, I think we're taking on a safety issue that could come back and harm
Are
us.
you talking about the things that connect on the back of the jet ski?
They're like little
No.
jet things and you fly up in the air and
Connected to a tube.
yeah.
The tube is
the
connected to a
tube-
jet ski.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the two.
And that's what propels you. And the fact is, we don't allow horsepower over 150 horsepower.
Okay.
And those have to be driven by like a 250 horsepower
Oh, they
jet ski.
do?
So we
yeah,
don't
so-
have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't think.
Just by the limitation.
Yeah, so, and I think, when you get into. You get into limiting certain activities like that, we take on a whole different set of liabilities. And dive into censorship of some sort,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
but, you have to look it up, but I don't think that the 150 horsepower jet ski could power one.
Okay.
All the ones that I looked at, saw, because we looked at this a couple years ago too, when the first one came out,
Yeah,
and they're all well over 200 horsepower. And we all said, you know what, leave it as is, because,
you can't, if you can't power it,
exactly,
it doesn't matter.
It's not gonna be here.
right,
Then I would suggest we answer the question.
Okay.
yeah.
So I thought the flying boards you're speaking about was this hydrofoil board that I saw last
There's
year.
that too.
Yeah, this
Now,
one.
that does exist.
That has the same kind of thing. It's got a deep.
Well, yeah, but
they're
that-
all
that-
3 feet.
It's got like a.
Centerboard.
It's a, it's a foil, it's a hydrofoil,
Okay.
so it's a T-foil, so which has a vertical strut, and then it has a foil at the bottom. And yeah, it's
I have
anywhere
one.
from 2 to 3 feet deep. And then there's an electric motor in the center of the junction between the vertical and the two wings. Those are well under 150 horsepower. But what I can't tell you is, again, first, I don't know if it's a hazard of any sort, and we want to get into that, again, for obvious reasons, but is it from a legal standpoint, trust me, I'd probably love to have one, but, I think we need to ask the objective question is it considered a motor vehicle or a vessel, motor vessel in the state of Connecticut? And if so, would it comply with the motor vessel regulations? And,
I don't know. I
So,
think-
so just so you know, on those type of things, there's really a number of different types, right? They have a hydrofoil that you pull behind it like a skier,
yes,
okay?
yeah,
And that's all, just like skiing, except you sit on this board, and the
Yeah.
hydrofoil is under, once you start going, you go
Goes
up
up
and
and
under.
down, yeah.
They also have the same type of unit that you can actually jump on, and just your motion keeps it going. So there's no
there's
electric
no
motor,
electric motor.
none at all. And then there are the
It gets
ones that have
pumped up.
electric propulsion to
Yeah.
them, that push you around, but it's electric, so it's very quiet.
Sure.
So, this is something that we have to be careful about what we, because you're gonna eliminate them all, you're gonna eliminate one, you're gonna, you know what I mean?
Again,
And I don't know that it's-
why eliminate them?
Well, that's my point. Why would we even think about it in the fact that,
If it's
Yeah.
either a motor vessel or it's not,
yeah,
and either it's regulated by the state laws or it's not. And again, I don't know the answer to these questions, I'm just saying, for us as, unless there's some compelling reason why we need to get involved with that, I think we need to stay away from it until it's an issue.
And if it becomes an issue, I think the town would have to weigh in on liability issues anyway, so.
Well, but again, what is,
Keep hasn't categorized them yet. They don't know what to do with them.
Okay.
So they actually did not allow them on the water for the last 2 years because they can't figure out how to register them.
the motor ones.
oh, wait, so, okay, wait a minute, so they have they are,
What they told Marine Patrol statewide was, we don't accept them on a body of water at the moment. We're
really,
not sure
even
what regulations
If
they
they're
follow. I
self-propelled,
don't know, they didn't define propulsion, they just said these powered, well, powered would be some sort of electric propulsion,
yeah,
these little circles.
yeah.
interesting.
But I wish
So
they
let me
would
ask
just
you
make a
this.
ruling. No, well,
Well,
That seems
so,
weird because they
so
have.
is
boats that are like-
there a horsepower?
they're not
Threshold.
talking about horsepower, they're not talking about anything, they just
No,
said.
no, I'm just asking the question. Is there a horsepower threshold that drives whether a vessel needs to be registered?
Yes, it's based upon age. I think 12-year-old can, with a boating certificate, run a boat
No, I'm sorry,
about 10 horse or something.
No, you have to register all horsepower. Any boat that's got a horsepower has to be registered. If you have a trolling engine.
Yeah.
Your boat has to be registered.
it does, that was my
Yeah,
question.
and they don't know, I
Even
don't think they
four
knew what to
horsepower.
do with these yet. I don't think they knew if it was a boat or if it was a surfboard,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, well, I know,
hopefully this year they figured it out.
yeah, Bob, so let's keep an eye on that and see if
If I
there's,
get any notice sometime,
yeah, but so for right now, the state has mandated
as of last season.
as of last season,
We're saying
No.
they're not allowed on state bodies of water.
State body.
state bodies.
Yeah, I think they were silent about private.
So what would we do?
We're private, right?
Yeah, I don't-
Ask the Lisa.
But I'll fill you in because I'll go to the latest training. I'm sure this will be addressed.
Okay,
So I think we table it for now.
okay,
So
so
we'll
leave
stay
that
away
as an
from it.
open item.
I
So,
would,
by the way, we should not leave it old, we should leave it open.
Leave it
Instead of
open.
old, say open.
Open,
Open
yeah,
business
I got
and
it.
open.
and I would defer until March, the person who wants to discuss weight boats. And just put it on the calendar. I don't think we should get into it until that person's here. They did ask me to research it. And there are potential issues environmentally and erosion, et cetera, with weight boats, particularly on small lakes.
Well, I'm just gonna give you a little preview. And this will.
I'm just.
I'm just gonna give you a little preview. Okay? I'm just gonna give you a little
Are you
preview.
recusing yourself?
I can. I will recuse myself of being chair at the moment. Just
You should be able to.
Yeah.
Yes, no, but I can step aside for a moment.
I think that's just appropriate.
Fair enough. That if we are going to talk about the impact of wakes on the lake,
Yes.
that they should be applied and be absolutely quantifiable to all boats.
And I have no issue, don't shoot the messenger.
No, I'm just.
I think we're opening a can of worms.
Just-
Don't shoot the
Remember how I said back when I was sitting here as chair
Yeah.
about, banning certain activities? Can get- Yes. And I'm not shooting the messenger.
In the old days, when I was chair.
The old days. the old days.
Okay, come back.
And I'm back on, I'm
You're
back
gonna
on.
shoot the messenger next.
No shooting. I'll shoot some geese, no, sorry. No. Okay, but thank you for that. We will obviously have some, healthy discussion.
Further discussion.
Further discussion. Okay, so we're gonna change old business to open business.
All old business to open.
Open business now?
Yeah, does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Okay,
And I want to, so a couple of things for open business. One is add Greg Stryker to open business.
right.
I think everything that's on there stays on there, as far as open business goes. The one other thing that I did
Get
miss.
rid of plywood.
We can get rid of the barrels.
Yes.
The fishing
Yeah,
barrels.
okay, so we'll get rid of the fishing barrels, then we'll get rid of the flying boards and water jet packs.
Yep, we can get rid of those. Don't we?
I'm not.
Okay. If we could add, I'm going to just ask every month until I get help, is, I would really appreciate a volunteer to help with putting together the annual report. Whoever's interested, I can send you a template. It's a very straightforward thing. It just takes some time to go through the meeting minutes and just add items, of activity of the board,
Did
so.
I not send you? I
I
sent,
know you did, but Mary, you do. too
I'm
much.
not doing it.
Okay.
I don't like full-time job right here.
Yeah, so, but we'll just keep it on there as an annual report,
Okay, got it.
Assistance.
assistance. So, all of you out there in, lake management, Landia, if you, want to contribute to the board, that would be a great place to start. And then lake level management, are we comfortable that we're in good shape there?
I just have,
Is that closed, I guess is my point?
well, I have one question for Mark. And,
Yeah.
Mark, you're relatively new to what I'm about to say, and Beth is very new to what I'm about to say. In years past, LMAC, with particularly Mark Coleman and Dave Vanderbilt and Dan O'Neill, were assistant gatekeepers and worked very closely with George Murphy, who I think was laissez-faire and didn't really want to handle the dam. And it was really those guys who were running it, Dave, Dan, and
Like mechanically.
Mark.
like they-
Mechanically,
like They
They
were.
physically opened it, shut it, they made the determination.
and
They ran it
also
by-
made the decisions. They all, Mark.
They made all the decisions.
Mark Coleman was manipulating that thing every day, I swear.
Yeah.
I don't wanna judge this, but I sense a reluctance that, do you want assistant gatekeepers? And do you want us to be able to communicate with you so you understand the history of why we're making recommendations? Beth is brand new to us in the past 2 or 3 years. You're relatively new to us. And so I would just put the question forth is, how do we from LMAC with assistant gatekeepers work with you?
So I think for my going on 7 years of doing this,
Right.
what I'm seeing is it's, at the end of the day, the board of selectmen, Steve Everett will make the final decision.
Okay.
Because when we got to that point of those hurricanes coming and the lake rising at light speed last year, it's good to look at, it's good to look at this report I gave you and the levels. You'll see
Yeah.
the huge changes.
Swings, yeah.
Right,
What that's trying to avoid to protect the spillway and the gate is these drastic 16 at 16 inches, we're about to go over the spillway.
Sure.
She's trying to keep it more manageable. Because you don't wanna do this, all of a sudden, we're having a hurricane coming and the lake's about to go up a foot,
Well, sure.
and
Yeah.
we're waiting too
Makes sense.
long to make adjustments.
The problem though that comes in is that what happens, and what it did happen years ago, is that philosophy meant we kept it way low to be safe. Because we had a number of years where we had no issues with the water coming back.
Right.
So you know what? Everybody got laissez-faire, and said, you know what, keep it down, keep it down, keep it down. And then all of a sudden, we got hit with a couple of years, we didn't have water. You think 10 calls is a lot? Wait until the water's not up, and then you get, I mean, and what we've kind of realized is no matter what you do, Mark, with the dam, somebody's not gonna be happy,
Right.
you know what I mean? So that's really why these not regulations,
Guidelines.
the guidelines were written, because we were getting so much crap, you know what I mean, because the water wasn't up. You know what I mean? That was 10 times worse than the ice issue. There was a handful of years when we did have ice issues, but that's, well.
So my question is, how do we communicate with
So
each other?
it's easier to just follow guidelines. But the guidelines are guidelines. So I'd say anytime we're really concerned with weather, it can be some phone calls to some key members of the.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we had the subcommittee.
But here's what happened too, the subcommittee, when we started getting everybody's opinion, we had 4 different opinions.
Sure.
And then
There has to be consensus.
Beth's standing at the gate on her way home,
Yeah.
and 14 texts are going back and forth on what to do, so that doesn't work. But knowing a major event is coming of weather that we're concerned about, then we could have a conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, where are you comfortable?
But in this
So
particular
how do we get-
instance, the policy wasn't followed. It really
But
wasn't.
we can now,
And we have a forecast that's telling us we're not gonna have ice in the lake.
and with LMAC giving we want you to follow policy recommendation, which was loud and clear tonight.
Right.
That heard it, I heard it. And your help in fielding some of these phone calls and your help in the education process to the public as to why we're doing what we're doing. We're not just making this stuff up.
And really, you shouldn't be out there walking out there. Send them to us.
Okay.
We will do it. Because, you know what I mean? Because, well, just send them to us. We'll be happy to help educate them and even walk it with them if they want. You know what I mean? So, because this has been too much of an issue over the years, you know what I mean? And so how do we leave? We're gonna be between 3, 6, and 4? That's what we're gonna try to.
We're at 4-1 right now.
Yeah.
then we're gonna stay there.
We're at 411,
Well,
we
the
were at
training,
39, I
they're-
thought you said.
No, we're at 4-1
4-1 today,
Oh,
as of
4-1. Oh,
as of the
okay.
first
As
of
of-
February.
today.
Okay,
Yeah,
we should start filming.
yes.
Right.
So,
Well,
but,
the gate was
but
open,
I,
gate's open, so they should shut it.
well, I think, but
We gotta be careful.
we gotta be careful
We
because.
shut it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna skyrocket.
Yeah, so.
With all this water.
Right. There's a lot of water in the ground.
That's
You're right. I
right,
don't
it's a
mean-
lot of, man, if you want it,
But it should be close, so.
right, well, but if you want it at 3'6", what we really need to do is to say, okay, it needs to be, it's gonna be between.
3.6.
I think it's open 12
3, 6
inches
to
now.
4.
It's 12
That's
inches
what
over
it says.
6 to
there.
4,
You might wanna go to
whatever.
Yeah, whatever
Whatever the range is.
Pullman had this down to.
Well, I know, but he was retired, and he
And he
walked
did it
around
every
every
day.
day, and he was, he was very much a creature habit, that was his thing, and so, Beth has got a lot of other responsibilities, so we need to respect that.
Right, so at this point, again, it's open 12 inches now, with really no rain in the forecast. Probably should go down to 6 or 8 inches open, and that way it starts to slowly rise up, slowly, but controllably, right? Is that what, I just wanna find out where we ended. and if we're
I
all
think
agreed
that's
on
the
that.
consensus.
Mark, is that, you're good with that?
Yeah, so we'll close the gate, not leave it at 12.
Right.
Start bringing it down,
Yeah,
but not close it.
I agree,
Right.
agree, yes, just
Not up to that.
So I think,
Reducing the,
reducing the openness.
that's not so hard, everything's reversed.
Yeah. Yeah, oxymoron.
The lower numbers are higher.
Yes. Okay.
All right, anybody, have anything else for this evening?
Motion to
I'll second.
Whiplash.
hungry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.
I gotta go home and do my practice.
Thank you.